was a spring of hope and a winter of despair. Okay, well, I hope you got through the snow this weekend in pretty good shape. We had a fair amount up here in north central Jersey. Nonetheless, Rutgers loses a game to Wisconsin on the road, 96-87. A team that beat number 2 Michigan and came in as a 15.5-point favorite. And at the start of this game, we thought that spread might be a little bit low, and it looked like Wisconsin would cover early by jumping out to a big lead early on. Also, we have transfer portal news and a Rutgers guy in the NFL Divisional playoffs. Let's get to it. Rutgers versus Wisconsin after Wisconsin beats number 2 Michigan. This had the potential to be a disastrous kind of game, and early on it looked that way. Wisconsin was up 10 points, 25-15, whatever it was, and took a 22-point lead at halftime. 51-22, and this looked like it was going to be another one of those games with, yeah, okay, we beat Northwestern. Like football, we can beat the bad teams. And the teams from lesser conferences, weaker conferences, but when it comes to our peers and the big boys, we don't do very well, and it looked like this was going to be a Michigan Seton Hall kind of blowout. Early production was bad. You know, I've talked a lot about a tale of two cities, hence my opening about a spring of hope and a winter of despair. That's what happens when at Rutgers your minor was English. Nonetheless, production early on was not good. The split personality, the tale of two teams, game to game, half to half, players from game to game, half to half. It's astonishing the extremes that they go through. First half, Haroon Zerno, 0 points. Dylan Grant had 0 points till like 2 points left in the first half, and then he got on the board. Tariq, I believe, only had 2 points. It looked like another extremely volatile tale of two cities kind of performance by the team and individuals. You know, this looked like it was going to be a bad loss after coming off that win against Northwestern at home, where Tariq scored 30 points in that game. He's got, he's barely scoring in this game. And, with a team that preseason wondered where the point that's been a topic of discussion, where were the points going to come from? I've told you where I thought they might come from based on volume shooting. That was Tariq. Some people might have disagreed with me. But nonetheless, Haroon Zerno, in a tale of two halves, winds up with 21 points on 5 for 9 from 3. And Tariq scores on his first, I think, 5 buckets of the second half. He's not a volume shooting guy. He was 6 for 16 and 1 for 6 from 3. But nonetheless, he winds up with 15 points. And J. Mike, I think he gets double digits in the second half. I think he had 10 points in the second half. This is a team where, we had 55 points against Seton Hall. We had 59 against Illinois, 60 against Michigan. But over the, 3 out of the past 4 games, we're averaging 84 points a game. Again, it's a split personality. Yes, those teams are, Illinois, Seton Hall, and Michigan are very good teams. In that stretch, the only real Steve Pikiell kind of game was the 65-50 win over Delaware State. And yes, we have vastly underperformed against elite and top competition. That's just who we are. But we bounce back. We get some wins. to prevent that bottoming him out and turning into the kind of season that a lot of people figured we would have. And that is a season of not being very good and being at the bottom of the Big Ten. But any sort of comeback, storming back and grabbing a win was not to be. As we run out of gas late, we run out of gas down the stretch. We fall to 9-9, 2-5 in the Big Ten, while Wisconsin is 5-2 in the Big Ten and 13-5. Once again, opposing guards killed us. Nick Boyd had 32 points. John Blackwell had 19. Nolan Winter had 18. Boyd, was, hitting a three and free throws down the stretch. It kind of created some distance and prevented any opportunity for us to try and send this game into overtime. And we couldn't get any closer after winning the second half, 58-45, on the strength of a 22-7 run. Nonetheless, early on, this is a game that saw us do everything that when we do these things poorly, we don't win. And they happen a lot over the past several years in the Steve Pikiell era. Three-point shooting wasn't good, was bad. 2-point shooting wasn't good. Rebounds, defending the three, all that stuff was really bad early on. But by the end of the game, it was kind of a shock. If you looked at the box score, you'd say, wow, this was a pretty even game. And, so let's go through it. Field goal percentage, we were shooting 30% early on, maybe less. We wound up at 47.6. Wisconsin was 48.3. Very, very even. Three-pointers, early, we were like shooting 28, 25%. Both teams shot at 40%. Free throws, we missed 4. We were 15 for 19. Wisconsin missed 3, 26 for 29. But the fact that they made and attempted a lot more free throws was one of the deciding factors in the game that helped provide the cushion. Rebounds were close. We out-rebounded 33-29. But we were out-assisted 20-17. But again, it's kind of close. It's an even kind of matchup. Turnovers, we had 10. Wisconsin had 9. But Wisconsin had 19 points of those turnovers, and we had 4. So the free throw shooting and the points off of turnovers wound up being the difference. And, along with our general inconsistency and streakiness, this is how we lose. We were led by Harun Zenos, 21 points, Tariq at 15, J. Mike 12. For the 6th time this year, and I've said this a couple videos in a row now, when Caden Powers gets some playing time, he loves the number 9. He had 9 points yet again. That's really strange. It's an odd number that he's gotten 6 times. Only 3 for 10 from the field and 1 from 5 from 3. And, that might be one of his things to work on is shot selection and or, a little bit of Tariq in him where when he goes for volume, sometimes his shooting accuracy and touch leaves him. That being said, Darren Buchanan, 8.7 rebounds, 4 assists. He was responsible for all our missed free throws. He had 4 missed free throws. Is Dylan Grant still under the weather? He was a no-show in the first half. And, generally for the whole game, 3 points, 14 minutes. Bryce Storch getting more playing time. He had 6 points, 3 rebounds in 17 minutes. And Agboli, 4 points, 9 rebounds, and 21 minutes. We've talked about how productivity out of the 5 position in the Big Ten is going to have to increase. But it is what it is. Just to back up on Tariq, and I've said this in my last video, the fact that he's being somewhat productive, being very productive in the Big Ten, After a little bit of concern whether he would be able to step up, from NJIT and doing well against lesser programs, but he's actually doing pretty well in the Big Ten, so good for him. Chris Newilly, 5 points, Lino Mark 4, and Dennis Bottleau still in witness protection. Don't know what's up with that. After we thought after the first couple games he might be a guy, apparently he is not so far. So there's only so much to say about this team. It looked like they were going to run off the court, but they kind of fought back a little bit. But there's only so much you can say and so much analysis you can do. We are kind of outmatched in the Big Ten, although I'm sure we are playing better than many people thought we would. And maybe there's some guys in this on this roster that you can build around and just get more talent surrounding them and help them out a little bit. But rough stretch coming up. It's off to 13-5 Iowa. Iowa is always a problem for us, football or basketball, and off to 13-6 Indiana, number 12 Michigan State, and then we're likely to go 0-3 before we're going to California, playing USC and UCLA. Goes without saying, don't get swept. If we have if we want to salvage this season at all, just from a standpoint of being competitive, win a couple games. Pick up a couple wins, prevent the downward spiral. Talk about Michael being on the hot seat, figuring out what his buyout is, yada, yada, yada. And, a lack of interest. That's key. Kelly Zinn's got a work cut out for her. We need to get some wins. We're going to succeed in generating revenue. We're going to have to show that we can get it done on the court, even if it's we don't have the kind of season from a win-loss record kind of thing. But if we show that we can be competitive and fight, add some bodies, and get better and be able to generate some revenue to go out and hunt for some guys, that's all you can really ask for. Nonetheless, we have more portal news. It's kind of a development today. We land another edge to join Malachi Davis, who's from Toledo, and we get from Tulsa, Jaden Burnett via Louisiana Tech, which is sort of becoming like a little bit of a feeder program for us of late. And Burnett's kind of undersized. If he's listed at 6 foot 250, you know how that goes sometimes when what you're listed at. When you think about a top 10-ish, top 15 edge rushers, Ruben Bain, David Bailey, they're 6'3". Kildrick Falk is 6'5". Nonetheless, Burnett's at Tulsa started 5 out of 12 games, had 28 tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss. We like that. Team high, 6.5 sacks. Can he bring some of that productivity with him? Didn't quite work for us. This past season, we thought, we might get some productivity from Eric O'Neill. Nonetheless, we did beat out FSU and Iowa, I believe. Which is always good when you can beat out the name brand programs. But the difference is that we're going to have to count on Jaden being productive right away and being a starter right away and jumping in there. And that's a lot to ask for a guy who started 5 games at Tulsa. And he was productive in the time that he played. Hopefully, though, he joins John Randall like undersized Rondo Porter, who we just snatched away from App State by South Carolina, and hopefully the two of those guys have some motors that they can get some production and get us going on the pass rush. But I'm skeptical. We've kind of had source of frustration for a lot of Rutgers alumni and fans and guys that cover the program that were bargain basement hunting now, dollar store hunting. And I'm not going to go through this again like the last video where Richie from the Night Report was saying, well, look, if they were any good at a Power 4 program or Big Ten program, they wouldn't be coming here. I don't think that's necessarily true. Sometimes you've had jobs or classes. If you're still attending classes at Rutgers, you just wasn't comfortable, didn't fit. You didn't kind of mesh with your instructor or your coaches where you were. They couldn't see your value, didn't put you in positions to do well. I just read a few weeks ago, the number one complaint from employees these days, it's not even about money or benefits or things like that, but not being the organization, management not being able to see the talent that you have and allow you to do the things that you do well. And that carries over into life and football as well. So I'd like to see us, we made headway in getting into different markets in high school recruiting, whether it's Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, Florida, whatever it might be. I'd like to see us do that in the transfer portal and, get some Power 4 Big Ten guys that say, hey, you know what? I didn't get as much time as I would like to have gotten at XYZ Big Ten program. And I'd like a change of scenery, go to the East Coast. Let's see what Rutgers got. Maybe you get the bag. And so I feel that it's getting a little bit disappointing and underwhelmed. It's like we're like the Jets. Right? Jets defensive coordinator hires. It's an underwhelming, or interviews, a very underwhelming list. And our transfer portal, especially on defense, that was historically bad for us this year. I'm not quite convinced. Hopefully these guys can step in and, can't really be developmental guys if you have a year, maybe 2 years left. But nonetheless, these I think a lot of the guys that we're getting, had they had multiple years ahead of them, might be developmental kind of guys, but we'll see how that shakes out. I'm a little bit ambivalent. Okay, a Rutgers guy that is in the playoffs, and it was actually kind of a fascinating game to watch, as Kyle Monangai is playing in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, Chicago Bears versus the Rams, who went into overtime. It's crazy that Caleb Williams hoisted up a Hail Mary. It was the weirdest Hail Mary I ever saw, because the guy was in the back of the end zone all by himself, and the Rams secondary looked like our safeties. They were like back there, and they were just standing around as the ball went over their head to the back of the end zone for a touchdown, goes to overtime. But the Rams pull it out 20-17. Kyle Monangai, 13 rushes for 36 yards, a 2.8 average. He was actually more productive as a receiver. He also had 36 yards receiving on 4 catches. So we hope Kyle enjoyed his time as a rookie in the NFL playoffs and divisional round. Nonetheless, okay, hope you all got through the snow in good shape. And deep freeze this week, man. You're gonna need a little something to keep you warm this week. Maybe some Eric LeGrand's Scarlet R. Yeah, let's do a PSA on this right now. If you haven't already, Eric LeGrand's limited edition, special edition, Scarlet Knight Kentucky Straight Bourbon. Really tasty stuff. Smooth, round, has you, it's kind of supple and fleshy and approachable. You use it for cocktails or sip on its own, especially when it's going to get down to 15 degrees at night, 10 degrees at night. Everybody enjoy your week. Hope you had a great week, and we'll see if there's any more news going on, transfers that are kind of late developmental news from the transfer portal. And we got Indiana playing in the national. Between Indiana getting to the national championship game and Mike Vrabel turning around the Patriots literally in a year's time to get to the AFC championship game, to me, is unbelievable. Virtually the same roster. And they were able to turn it around. Hopefully there's something like that in our future, and that our defensive coordinator, it's going to be fascinating. A lot of people think it's an NFL guy that's still in the playoffs. I don't know. We'll see. I'm kind of ambivalent about that. Coach Triano tends to be very processed and grinded out, kind of fussy kind of guy when it comes to landing the coaches that he needs to, or that he's pursuing, and sometimes we come up a little bit short. We're going to have to get the DC. We're going to have to get that defensive coordinator right, like we did with Kirk Shiraka. If we do that, we have an opportunity to be pretty solid next year, even though the schedule is not going to be very friendly. Everybody enjoy your week, and we'll see you next time.